Boa tarde, pessoal. Sejam todos bem-vindos ao nosso segundo turno de palestras do segundo dia do encontro de férias. Antes de passar para vocês a palestra do Paulo, eu vou revelar a ganhadora do kit dos 7 livros da Suzana Florice para o ensino de português como língua estrangeira. A gente já verificou, ela está inscrita, cumpriu com todos os requisitos. Foi a Divonilde Pereira dos Santos Silva. O arroba dela no Instagram é teacher.divapereira. Diva, a gente vai entrar em contato com você pelo Instagram. E assim que você responder para a gente com os dados, a gente envia o kit, tá bom? Boa palestra a todos, obrigada pela participação. E, bom, now you guys, I'm talking in English because we're going to start Paulo Abreu's presentation. He's going to tell us about creating reusable learning objects, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Just remember, during this lecture, we're going to put the link to download your certificate on this video's description, all right? Please welcome Paulo.
Hi, hello everybody. I hope everybody can hear me well. I see a lot of people are with me here. So we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately. This is not a workshop, so I'm going to start straight away, okay? I chose this topic of creating reusable learning objects because I think it is really important for the moment we're living, especially with the pandemic and everybody having to deal with teaching online and teaching remote and having to reinvent themselves, right? So it's a good idea that we, first of all, of course, define what a reusable learning object is. According to the Learning Technology Standards Committee, a learning object is any entity, digital or non-digital, that you can use during technology-supported learning. This is really broad and really general, right? I hope you can make a connection with this because a learning object, in fact, is anything from a small piece of text, oral or written, an exercise from a book, anything that you create with the tools that I listed down there with Bootclap, MindMeister, Padlet, Powtoon. I believe some of you are familiar with these tools. One of the most familiar and popular tools nowadays for teachers who use technology in the classroom is Kahoot, right? Many people use Kahoot, and Kahoot is also one tool that we use to create learning objects. The idea here, of course, is that we change our mindset a little bit. What happens is that everything you use nowadays, whether digital or non-digital, the workbook, the textbook, anything that you are using for teaching is a learning object. The idea and the change in mindset has to be one that brings you to the granularity of the system, because we're very used to thinking about, for example, textbooks as courses in themselves and workbooks as supplement or complement to our courses. And the idea behind learning objects is that we sort of take a granular approach and divide those things into smaller objects that can be combined, reused, and remixed. Textbooks, as everybody knows, they cater to a large audience all over the world. So materials in textbooks are usually bland, and they do not always cater to what our groups need. So it is the job and a very common thing that teachers adapt. Teachers adapt all the time. And adaptation is one of the most important things, in fact, in the life, especially of an English teacher. So that's why it's important to think about learning objects, especially reusable learning objects, because you can remix and build other learning experiences from a collection of learning objects that you might have. So, to summarize so far, what I'm asking you to do is to think about everything you use as a teacher in your classrooms as units, smaller units of learning, what we call learning objects. And that you think about these things when you prepare them to be usable, to be reusable, to be used again, right? Um, when we think about why we need to do this, adaptation, of course, comes to mind, and creating your own materials as well, right? One of the reasons why we want to adapt to materials, of course, is to include tasks that are missing, all right? But there are many other reasons why we want to adapt and create our own materials. Especially nowadays, we sometimes have to make it simpler because we're teaching online, we're teaching from a distance, and it doesn't make any sense to want to operate the same way we operate in the classroom, right? And meeting the learner's needs, of course, is of the utmost importance nowadays, especially because they're on the other side of the screen. And of course, asking them to open the book to a certain page and do a certain exercise is at least is in the minimum boring, right? So what we have to do is to think about the reasons why we are, if we are still using our materials the way we used to do face to face, why are we doing that? And what can we change? We can change, for example, the sequence of tasks in the materials we have and create a new sequence, right? We can introduce different activity types to supply variety in the classroom. A diet of gap fills and multiple choice kinds of exercises is very, very boring. And students need really to have a different variety in terms of tasks, activity types they use. Of course, we have to contextualize language. We have to bring interesting images. We have to sometimes bring text that are appropriate in size, in level, and in the interest of learners, right? We sometimes have to bring in more examples or to focus on a certain piece of material in a different way, right? We have also to supply new questions, large questions, what we call big questions in education, so that students can learn and think and have a different drive. How do we do that? We can reduce material, we can alter what we have, we can add to it, we make it more personal, right? We improvise, of course. We create other stuff that will replace the stuff in the textbook, for example. We can simply decide to lift the textbook material off the page and bring it onto the screen on a Google Slides or any other tool that you might have. We have, of course, to grade language sometimes, or in the case of higher levels, we have to demand higher, I would say, from our students. By demanding high, we mean challenge them to produce more and to think more about what they're doing. Of course, when at the planning stage, when you're planning your lesson, or even during the lesson, right? After the lesson, when you evaluate what you have done, or when you have a group of mixed level students, it's very important that you work on differentiation, which is something very common in schools, especially bilingual schools nowadays, but not very common in English courses, for example. Sometimes the material is inappropriate in terms of culture, sometimes language, or the topic. And those are some of the reasons and the whys and the whats we want to adapt to materials on textbooks or even materials that we have created beforehand. Since we're talking about adapting, it is important to understand
Paulo? Paulo, can you hear me? Paulo? Guys, I'm sorry to let you guys know. Paulo had some issues with his electric energy at home. He's without power. I guess we'll try to establish contact again with him. But as soon as we have some news, we'll let you guys know. Okay? I'm sorry for the interruption. Hi, Paulo.
Oi, gente, voltei. Faltando aqui, mas.
Oh, no problem. We're still live. Okay.
Okay.
So could you share your screen again? Oh, thanks a lot.
Okay, here we are. I'm sorry, everybody. It's really strange not to be able to see you or hear you. I'm sorry, the power went down, but I'm back. Can you see everything? Can you see, Barbara? Can you confirm you can see my presentation?
Yes, we can hear you and see your presentation perfectly.
Okay, great. So let's move on. So we're talking about adapting and creating our own materials. So let's move on to why do that, the adaptation and creation of new materials using digital tools or to create digital learning objects. Digital learning objects offer a million advantages over paper, pencil, paper-based materials, of course. And they should be designed to be a learning experience in themselves, right? And also to be part of larger, different experiences. It's like Lego, building blocks that will make a longer lesson with a specific purpose or an end in itself, a practice moment in your lesson or part of a series of practice moments in a longer lesson. Of course, digital learning objects offer instant feedback. Students do not depend on the teacher to provide feedback. They are immediately reusable as soon as a student finishes the activity and gets their feedback. They can do it again. And one of the best possible things you can imagine about a digital learning object is that once the student wants to do it again or has to do it again, it will self-reorganize for a fresh experience. What do I mean by this? You should build digital learning objects that not only reorder questions, but also reorder options within questions. You can talk about, for example, pooling, a pool of questions. Out of 50 questions, every time a student tries that object, you will get 5, 10 questions. So the combinations are, the possibilities are enormous, and the students will probably not find the same learning object every time they try it. It's very easy to share. You build digital learning objects with tools where sharing is an option and easy. It can be collaborative. You can build learning objects with a friend or with a group of friends, and everybody can contribute and build marvelous tools. It is easily editable across the board. That means that once you create your object, you create it once and use it many times everywhere you want in your website, in your blog, anywhere you want, and you don't have to edit all instances of that object. These are characteristics of a good digital learning object, right? It's not very easy to understand it upfront like this. One has to see how they work to understand, especially, for example, the create once, use many times feature of digital learning objects. But they are something that nowadays is of the utmost importance. Once you have made your mind up about learning objects, it is really interesting to understand, and I understand that not every teacher is at the same level in terms of using technology. Some teachers are still trying and still flirting with it. Others are highly skilled. And Dr. Ruben Puendetura created a model called the SAMR model for evaluation of classroom technology integration in terms of what the teacher does, what the teacher skills are. The very first level is the level of substitution, it's the S in SAMR, and it has to do with teachers or people who use technology basically as a direct substitute. There is no functional change in what you do. And an example would be to get a worksheet that you have been using for a while and transfer this to the screen, or simply transform it into a PDF and send it online. I have seen, especially during the pandemic, some schools, entire schools, and the whole staff working with PDFs that are sent by email back and forth. So the truth is that you're not using technology with a functional advantage. What you're doing is basically using the technology for mobility, but not exactly using technology to enhance learning. So substitution is this very basic level where you bring everything you have on paper and pencil onto the screen, especially, right? But there is no more, no other change, especially no functional change. The second level, or another level, is the A in SAMR, is the level of augmentation, where technology still acts as a direct substitute, but there is a functional improvement. This, for example, we will see an example in a minute, could be a gap fill, an electronic gap fill, where, for example, you have instant feedback, as I said before, as opposed to PDF, which gives you no feedback, provided you don't get it to do it, right? The next level, or another level in Dr. Puendetura's model, is the level of modification. At this level, technology allows for significant task redesign. And this is perhaps a bit complex for most people working with technology in education, because it has to do, it affects learning directly, right? It affects students' behaviors and teachers' behavior as well. This is highly significant because the teacher stops or ceases to be the center of attention, the source of all knowledge. It has to do with more collaboration. It has to do with using technology, especially teens nowadays can do that for us. If you design a wonderful task where teens have to collaborate and contribute, you're working at the level of modification, and especially depending on how students report the results of the activity or their findings or something like that. And the highest level, or another level, is the redefinition level, where technology allows for the creation of new tasks, previously inconceivable. For example, think about listening nowadays or watching videos. Back in the day, it was very difficult, for example, for us to ask a student to listen to different bits of text. We used to do that with different bits of written text, but it was almost impossible to have different groups in the classroom or different students in the same classroom listening to a different bit of audio. This is an example of what you can do with technology that it was impossible to do before it became so ubiquitous in our lives, right? So these four levels in the SAMR model correspond to two different areas. The very first two is the area of enhancement. So you're enhancing technological resources or learning materials. And in the upper part, you're transforming the learning materials so that learning is deeply affected. Every teacher at this point, and I would ask everybody if we were face to face or if I could see you, I would ask you to tell me which level you're in. But just a little bit of self reflection will tell you. Most teachers I work with in terms of technology in workshops and so on find themselves at the substitution augmentation level. Very few are trying, experimenting with modification or redefinition to this day, because it is not an easy thing to do. You need time, you need to be, errors need to be understood by management and so on. But it's worth trying more and more to work with different levels in this model, right? And it's not a problem, definitely, to be at the substitution or augmentation level. Everybody has to respect their moment and their skills with technology. Technology is something that sometimes makes people afraid. I'm not going to go into the digital immigrant or any of that sort of thing, because I myself am not an example. I am an example that this might not be true. So I always recommend that everybody who is trying or wanting to try more complex things with technology should try. Try in your little groups, try alone, and when you least see it, you will see that you're moving levels or you're playing with different tools. Since we have talked about this, it's important also to talk about Tony Bates's action model. This was created in 1995 to help teachers analyze if they should try out a particular technology. Tony Bates was the head of the Open University, and Open University is a huge online university in England. And he created this model to help his staff evaluate the proposals they had for him to implement new technology. So action stands for access, costs, teaching and learning, interactivity, and user friendliness. Organizational uses, novelty, speed. It's very easy to analyze any piece of technology that you have at your disposal, or that you're thinking of implementing in your school or suggesting to your coordinator perhaps, by using this frame. For example, in terms of access, how accessible is a particular technology for learners? How flexible is it for a particular target group? This is very, very important, because despite the fact that we think everybody has access to the internet and the marvelous tools that we have in São Paulo, Rio, and so on, lots of people across the country still do not have access to technology. So it's really, really important that we think about what we want to do. Most people have mobiles, it is true, but not everybody is able to access learning via computers or mobile devices. Is it expensive? What's the cost structure of each technology? What is the unit cost per student? For example, if you're an independent teacher and you want to adopt a certain technology with your private students, it is really important for you to understand what the business model is. If the tool will charge you per head, per student that accesses your materials, or if it is free. What I have to say is there are lots of free tools, but always remember privacy. Sometimes what you create online is shared with other people. It's never free, totally free. So we have to think about this. What is the cost for the school? What is the cost for me if I am a private teacher? In terms of teaching and learning, what kinds of learning are needed? What instructional approaches will best meet these needs? What are the best technologies? Well, I was talking about mobile learning, but we also have to think about students' background here. Are these students, for example, prone to collaboration? Do they like it? Are they used to it? Because this influences directly on the successful outcome of your choice or not. Interactivity is really important to understand this, because what kind of interaction does this technology enable? When we think about interaction in itself, We might be thinking about groups of people talking to each other, but nowadays the interaction should be interaction on the screen, or perhaps, for example, as most of you using Zoom know, we can send students to breakout rooms, they can talk in breakout rooms, or they can't do it. Is it possible to do things on the screen or only share and see as I'm doing right now? So you have to think about all of these things. Of course, the school you work at needs to be in the game, right? Because organizations have requirements, and sometimes there are barriers, such as cost, for example. So one has to understand this. Novelty. How new is this technology? Some people are still using Flash, which is something that the World Wide Web has banned for obvious reasons. It's old technology, so we have to think about this as well. And speed. How quickly can courses be mounted with this technology? How quickly can materials be changed? And this, I think, is the key question for us, right? If you are thinking of adopting a certain technology or a certain tool, but you take hours to build an activity that will last 5 minutes, maybe it's not the best choice, right? And how quickly can you change materials? Can you create this material and then go back and change it as soon as you need it or as often as you need it? Sometimes some tools, you create the materials or you create the activity and you can't go back and edit. And everybody, will sometimes want to go back and adapt. This is a very important model because of what we're going to be talking about next. This is a very, very brief history of authoring tools in education. Authoring tools are any piece of software, online or offline, that enables teachers and other people, other professionals, to create educational materials, right? The technical term for that piece of software is authoring tool. PowerPoint is perhaps the most popular authoring tool in education. It was built for business, of course, but it very quickly got the attention of teachers everywhere because it was very easy at the time it was launched to have a more interesting interaction with your classes. PowerPoint is as old as 1987, but it's still around, still strong. Lots of people are still doing lots of things with PowerPoint. In 1998, those who are almost the same age as I am will remember Hot Potatoes. Hot Potatoes was and still is a suite of software, pieces of software that allow you to create exercises for the World Wide Web. You created your exercises and then you posted your exercises in a blog or a web page. It was very, very popular, and right now it is coming back. There is a new version online, and I'll send you, if you want, I'll send you the links for you to have a look. It still looks very 90s, but it is a very good piece of software. In 2007, Google Slides was launched, and Google Slides, as compared to PowerPoint, is already in the age of the Web 2.0, right? What I mean by the Web 2.0 is that it brings lots of new possibilities with it. Google Slides was built in the cloud, was born in the cloud, differently from PowerPoint, so teachers had to learn how to share and work with the concept of the cloud, which is a non-local file system, right? Google Slides is a very good option for people who want to create materials or work in a school that is Google for Education. It's a wonderful alternative to PowerPoint because it has lots of interaction, which PowerPoint does not offer, right? Although PowerPoint is more mature and I like it more in terms of design, Google Slides is a wonderful alternative because of the interactivity and because of the possibilities it brings. In 2009, Prezi was launched, and anyone who used Prezi will remember how new it was because of the way it looked and the way you moved around what you built. But Prezi almost died a couple of years ago because it stopped there. It didn't offer anything else for anyone authoring courses or materials online. And in 2013, H5P was born, and now we're entering new realm for most people, I believe. H5P is the tool that I used to build this presentation, and it is the tool that I use to build most of the presentations I make in most scenarios that I work at, either training other teachers or training personnel or simply presenting in business meetings, right? The great advantage of H5P is that it incorporates all of the new features of the web. Web 2.0, 3.0, it's new, brand new, and it's growing as fast as we speak. One of the possibilities with H5P and any authoring tool that you have is to make learning objects much more interesting. Look at this traditional exercise, for example, that I took from a very popular textbook. And when you think about it and you look at it, you think, what can a student do with it? The student will simply open their book and fill in the gaps with their pens or pencils and wait for the teacher to provide the correct answers. That would be, I'm exaggerating, of course, but that would be the classical approach to this piece of learning object, right? Of course, some teachers are more creative. They will do checking answers in pairs and all of those things. But initially, this is the idea. And the teacher also will be sort of, it's a straitjacket, right? Because it is there, it's printed. There isn't much I can do with this, not even interact with this in a very different way. Provided the teacher is creative, he can do lots of things with the exercise on the book. One of them is cutting it all together. But this is basically the options teachers and students will have if this piece of exercise is on the book page, right? Immediately, as soon as we transform this into a digital learning object, and this is it, you see other possibilities, right? You probably have seen this before and have tried this before in many, many websites across the web. But for example, between this one and this one, which is exactly the same, I already have an advantage. With the same amount of work behind it, I have two different kinds of activity. One is drag and drop, as you can see. And of course, I'm not trying the correct answers, but let's see what we get. Let me get one straight here for you to have a look. And as soon as I check, I have my feedback. And it's beautiful, and the student can repeat this as many times as they need. The other possibility, if you want to make it harder, is to simply type your answers here. I created these two activities in the same piece of software. In fact, I copied and pasted from one to the other because it's basically the same. So you already see the advantage of not working with paper and pencil, right? This, of course, is a very simple kind of task. And I'm going to show you. Now I have to open other tabs. So hang there with me. For example, there are a million possibilities with H5P. One of them here is a memory game. And this memory game has both the picture and audio, as you can see. And it's very interesting because at the same time a student memorizes the numbers and the concept of the number, they hear the word, right? Another activity that you can create with H5P, another reusable learning object, I'm going to show you a very interesting one called interactive video. As soon as this talk is over, you can go online and you can check all of the objects, okay? I'm going to send you the link. Look at what you can do with a YouTube video and how interesting and how many possibilities it opens up for you. Now I can stop and I can insert multiple choice quizzes in the video. And I can share information, right? This is another activity, sorry. He's asking me to watch the intro again. We're going to skip it. Strawberries and blueberries, I think. Wow. So all over the video on YouTube, you can create interactions of various sorts. You can have multiple choice questions. You can have fill in the blanks. I'm just going to type anything here. And this is a brilliant tool for you to create conversation lessons, for example, stopping at strategic points in the video, or inserting comprehension questions, right? And as you can see, it's very visual, and you can definitely create the most marvelous learning object with this. Another very interesting activity that you can create is the flashcard. You have audio.
Arándanos azules.
And you can check. It's the classical flashcard, but it's very interesting for you to present vocabulary, for example, right? And these are just some. We have about 44 different activities that you can create with H5P. But that's not the most important, because you can create lots of activities with different tools, as I showed at the beginning, right? You can create activities with WordWall, you can use Kahoot, and so on. But the interesting thing with H5P and the latest technology is that this is all yours. This does not belong to anybody. You create this and you can embed this in your websites. For example, I have in my blog, I have language. I hope you can see this. No, you can't see this right now. I'm going to share another screen with you so you can see it. Can you see me now? Can you see my screen now? I hope you can. For example, in my blog, I have lots of activities and exercises for language practice with H5P. So I create the tool in my authoring site, and then I can embed and distribute the activity anywhere I want, right? This same activity that you can see here is in another place, is in my, I created a sample for you to see. When the energy went down, all my websites went down as well. So let me look at it. Just one single moment. I'm going to share another screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. This is my Google's website, and it was created with Google, of course. The same activity is here. So the idea is that you have, it's taking a bit longer to show. The important concept here is that I created this activity once only, and now I can have this activity in as many places as I want. I can have it in my blog, I can have it in my Google Sites, I can have it in my website, I can have it anywhere I want by sharing and embedding the code. This is the way it looks, for example, on an iPad. And most importantly, this is how your students will see it in your mobile phone. You can click start and they immediately have the activity there for them to use. Okay, going back to our presentation here. I hope you understand that what I'm trying to tell you is that we need to incorporate technology intelligently in our practice. By intelligently, I mean, who has time, right? No one has time to create activities all the time. And we have to be able to create learning objects that you can reuse, that you can make the best possible use you can, that will appeal fresh, beautiful, brand new to your students. And that's what we can do with the latest technological tools that are available. And H5P is perhaps the best in the market right now, right? I'm going to open now for questions, right, Barbara? Let's do that so that we do not get ahead of time. What do you think?
Hi, Paulo. Well, everybody is asking a lot about H5P here.
Okay.
They're asking if H5P is a paid tool, and for example, if it has the possibility to be a free tool, if everything you showed us is available in the free trial mode.
Okay, H5P is a free tool. They are moving now into a business model of software as a service. For people who haven't heard of this before, what happens is you pay a fee every month to use the technology, so you don't have to bother with installing and so on, right? But it's a free tool. For example, at Albion, we integrate Moodle and we integrate H5P into the same environment. So for us, the cost is implementation and, of course, maintenance of the site. But h5p.org is free, okay? It is a free website. It is still going to be free for a while now. For those of you who don't want to bother about anything, there is a small fee to pay at h5p.com, okay? At Albion, we also offer training courses. We also offer the implementation of H5P and online websites for schools and English courses and so on. One of our very famous clients is Ann Arbor in Leblon. An Arbor Online website is totally implemented using H5P, and we were the ones who provided that for them, okay? So in very quickly, it is free. You just have to know where to go and what to do, and the address I will show you at the end. I will show the address of H5P so you can create your account, okay? Any other question?
Yeah, Juliane Petro is asking if it's possible to use H5P on a Chromebook.
Yeah, since H5P is an online tool, it is theoretically speaking, available in any computer that has access to the internet. Okay, you can even create activities using your mobile. Of course, it is much more difficult, but you can create activities using your mobile. Okay?
Okay, and the last question, Tatia Pinto is asking, she says, I have an account in H5P and I can't use the interactive video. Why?
It depends a lot on the kind of account you have, if it's h5p.org or h5p.com. Last time I checked, everything was available everywhere. You can send an email to me, okay, if you're listening, send an email to me and I'll help you with that as much as I can. I am in contact with the people at H5P, so if there is a problem, I can try and understand it. Okay?
Oh, Paulo, thank you. Everybody is thanking you for the awesome lecture. And let me see. I had skipped one comment here. Karina Passetti asked, what is inappropriate culture that you've mentioned before?
For example, some textbooks and some course books are not appropriate, for example, in the Arab world, because of the clothes people are wearing or because of the relationships depicted by men and women. This is what we mean by inappropriate culture. Nowadays, for example, anything related to Black Lives Matter or any sort of, related to women being treated unfairly is an issue, even here in Brazil. Okay?
Thanks. And Weber Mota is asking is the license to use free or is the questionnaire done on web questions?
Sorry, I don't understand the question exactly. The software, it's a pity we don't have a lot of time, but once you log in and you create your account, you can start creating your activities immediately. You don't go anywhere else. There's no web questions or any other tool integrated into the tool, if I'm not mistaken. Before people go, Barbara, I think it's a good idea that I share my contact, and so that people can email me, or if they want to talk about this. We can provide, and this is a promise I'm doing here because of SPS, okay? Because SPS is a wonderful partner. So look, these are my emails, and you can use these addresses for H5P. Well, the promise I'm making, Barbara, is that anybody who wants to play with H5P can do this on the Albion website. I will create free accounts for them. Get in touch with me, and I will create free accounts for you, okay? Anybody who wants it.
Oh, that's awesome, Paulo. Thanks a lot. And well, we still have 2 minutes. Can we have 2 more questions?
Definitely, as many as you want. I'm free for you.
Oh, the folks are asking you to send us the link so we can send that here in the comments.
Okay.
The links as well.
I'm pasting it here, okay?
Okay.
Can I paste it here myself in the comments?
Yeah, sure. There's no problem.
Okay, no, I can't. So I'll send it to you and you paste it there, okay?
Okay. I'm just sending this. This link you've sent is the ones about H5P, right?
No, this is the Albion Education. It's the link for the presentation.
Okay.
H5P is here. I'm sending it to. Tell people who want to access the presentation to log in as guests, okay?
Oh, sure. They're going. Dirce Moreira is asking you to show your emails and contacts again.
Okay, I will do that right now. There you are. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it. If anybody needs another check on this presentation, on the link we've sent, the albion.education, there will be the presentation Paulo showed us. And if you need anything else, this video on YouTube will keep recorded. Okay, guys? Paulo, thanks a lot for your time, for your awesome presentation. Thanks a lot, everybody who joined us right now. and the link to download your certificates for this lecture is already available on this video's description, okay? We're going to have our next lecture with Alex Tamoulis starting at 3 p.m., okay? Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much, Barbara. Thanks, everybody. Remember my offer. Anybody who wants a free account to deal with H5P to learn, just get in touch, okay? Thank you very much for the invitation. And keep safe, everybody. Wear your masks.